You may not believe this, but over 80% of clients identify spirituality or religion as being incredibly important and meaningful to their mental health. And yet, almost 80% of therapists never incorporate conversations about spirituality or religion into sessions with clients. I know it's a really big gap that exists between this concept with clients and what's happening in session. But here's the thing. Today, I'm going to not only talk to you about exactly how we resolve the spirituality gap so that you can feel comfortable and confident bringing spirituality or religion into sessions, but I'm also going to give you the most important do's and don'ts so that it lines up well with your professional license, your ethics, and your own personal experiences and feelings. So, what if one of the most important parts of healing has actually nothing to do with diagnoses or with coping skills or with trauma processing? What if one of the deepest human needs actually is the need to make meaning of our lives? There are questions like, why am I here? What happens after we die? Is there a higher purpose to my suffering? Am I connected to something greater than myself? How do I find meaning during difficult times? Now, these are spiritual questions. And whether someone identifies as religious or spiritual or agnostic or atheistic or completely unsure, most people do wrestle with these questions at some point in their lives. Now, the challenge is that many therapists and coaches and helping professionals do not bring spirituality into their sessions. They feel uncomfortable about incorporating spirituality into their sessions for many, many very good reasons. Sometimes those reasons is that they're concerned that it would seem like they're imposing their own beliefs, and I'm going to tell you how to resolve that. Sometimes therapists or the helping professionals don't have any personal beliefs or relationship with spirituality and religion, so they may accidentally think that it's not that important to the client as well. Sometimes therapists and helping professionals just don't know how to introduce the topic and to do it in a way that actually is going to benefit the client. And I'm going to help you resolve that too today. But I will tell you something pretty interesting. We cannot rely on clients incorporating spirituality or religion into sessions because most of them say that they hesitate to talk about their spirituality or religion because they're afraid of actually violating our beliefs. They're afraid of making us uncomfortable. They're afraid that spirituality doesn't belong in therapy. And that's a part of the messaging that's been happening for a long time in our field that says we're not talking about spirituality and religion because we're here to talk about mental health, which is about emotions from sometimes a scientific perspective. So we don't want to rely on clients just bringing this up because they may not, which means we would be missing this huge resource that is available to clients to help them with their life challenges or how to understand the experiences that they're having. So today we are talking about how to explore spirituality both ethically, respectfully, and in a way that truly supports healing on the holistic therapy revolution. We're talking about spiritual counseling and some of the principles and the do's and don'ts that can help you do this safely, professionally, ethically, and never in violation of your license, while giving clients the opportunity to explore something that perhaps would make an enormous difference, not just in their healing, but in their thriving. Welcome back to the Holistic Therapy Revolution. I am Beth Miller. I've been a holistic therapist for over 25 years, and I'm also the creator of the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching model, a trademark model that combines the best tools from psychotherapy and pairs them with coaching and also the best holistic modalities like energy healing, science, spirituality, meditation, and more. And this helps people on every layer of their being, mentally, emotionally, physically, behaviorally, energetically, and spiritually. Now, one thing that is really important to understand about the advanced holistic counseling model is this: we do not affiliate with any religion. We do not promote any specific spiritual belief system. We do not tell clients what they should believe. Instead, the model trains therapists that we help people explore what's meaningful and authentic for them. So in this model, when we do talk about spirituality, we do it in a way that is unbiased and without an agenda. We do it in a way that helps to support whatever is meaningful and authentic for the client. Now, before we go further, let's talk about religion and spirituality because they're not the same thing. And sometimes they're used interchangeably, which is understandable, but let's separate it out. Now, religion often involves things like traditions, institutions, doctrines, teachings, community, and very specific belief systems. Whereas spirituality is often broader. It may involve meaning, purpose, connection, values, transcendence, a relationship with the sacred, connection to nature, to humanity, and maybe to something larger than oneself. So religion and spirituality may be a little different, or maybe very different depending on the client. Some people are both religious and spiritual. Some are neither. Some are one, but not the other. And all of these positions deserve our respect. In the United States, and possibly other places in the world, I can't be sure, there has been a trend towards identifying as spiritual, but not identifying as religious or following a type of religious institution or dogma. And so it's very important that we as practitioners understand the difference between religion and spirituality, or also are able to ask clients questions to help them understand what is most important to them about religion or spirituality or both. Now, the role of the holistic practitioner, the holistic therapist, the holistic coach, is that we have to be very ethical about how we talk about spiritual counseling, because we are not here to tell people what to believe. Our role is not to convince. Our role is not to preach. Our role is not to convert. Our role is to help people safely explore. And that means approaching spiritual conversations with one of my number one fundamental cornerstone therapeutic tools, which is curiosity. Curiosity allows us to explore and to ask more questions and to look under the hood and to get a sense of things and to always ask even more follow-up curious questions, because curiosity is not certainty. It is not absolutism. It is just being interested and curious. And there's not a lot of people in our lives that ask us curious questions, which is one of the great benefits of being a therapist, is to be a person in somebody's life that is creating a space for lots of exploration. And that really can and should include spirituality. So let's talk about what spiritual counseling might look like. Spiritual counseling is going to begin and end with questions. Questions like, what do you believe? What gives your life meaning? What helps you through difficult times? What spiritual beliefs support you? Are there spiritual beliefs that no longer fit for you? What were the spiritual religious beliefs that you had when you were growing up? What does your family believe in? What would you like to explore further? Now, you might notice that none of these questions have absolute answers. None of them. The goal is exploration, not absolutism. Not persuasion, just lots of questions. Now, there's some really good do's and don'ts of spiritual exploration, of spiritual counseling. Some things that you absolutely should not do and absolutely should do in order to make this ethical and work according to your professional licenses, that you are following appropriate and professional rules. And here's what some of them are. The don'ts. Don't do these things. Do not preach. Do not proselytize. Do not judge other people's beliefs. Do not insist that your perspective is correct. Do not pressure clients into spiritual conversations. Do not tell people what they should believe. Do not tell clients that you know exactly what enlightenment looks like or does not, or what being saved looks like or does not, or what sinning looks like or does not, or what God wants or does not. Do not use your position of authority to influence your client's worldview. Do not tell people what they should believe. Spiritual exploration should be client-focused, not practitioner-focused. Your beliefs, your values, your religion, your spirituality is not welcome in the room. It has nothing to do with your beliefs about spirituality, religion, God, what works, what doesn't work. What matters is the client's experiences, the client's beliefs. Now, that should go without saying, but there's something about spirituality and religion where sometimes the lines seem to get blurred for people, which is why therapists are hesitant to bring it up. So it's very important that we be very, very clear. Spiritual exploration is about the client's beliefs. It is not about the practitioner's beliefs. However, practitioners need to lead the conversation to ask about these things because remember, clients are hesitant to talk about these things because they think it doesn't belong in therapy, because they think you don't want to talk about these things in session, that it would be inappropriate. Now, let's talk about some of the do's. What are some of the do's that we can do in spiritual exploration? So one of the do's is to ask a ton of questions. That's that curiosity again. I encourage therapists and coaches and practitioners that I teach about incorporating spiritual counseling into their sessions to ask a lot of who, what, where, why, and how questions. Because when we ask those questions, we stay in a lane of curiosity. We are not telling anybody anything. We're not telling them what to think or do or believe. And it helps us to stay away from accidentally asking binary, polarized questions, yes or no questions. Who, what, where, why, and how questions also enable us to be able to create a wide open space for lots of interesting discussion with the clients. It lets the client know that their ideas, that their opinions, that their beliefs, that what they're interested in or not interested in is really welcome. That there's a wide open space. It creates an environment that says, let's talk about it all. Who, what, where, why, and how questions like, what does spirituality mean to you? What experiences have shaped your beliefs? What gives you a sense of connection? What spiritual ideas feel meaningful to you? What questions are you currently wrestling with? The practitioner becomes a guide, and this keeps you safe from sharing your own experiences, and this keeps you safe from violating your professional ethics, and this keeps you safe from accidentally having an agenda. Now, When I open up conversation with clients about spirituality, I often notice that they don't know. Clients may not always have definitive beliefs about everything related to spirituality. They may be seeking, they may be searching, they may be unsure. They might say things like, well, I don't know, I grew up Catholic, but I'm not sure I believe in those things anymore, but I don't really know what I do and don't believe. Or they might say, I don't know what happens when somebody dies. I'm just not sure. I just don't know what I believe. And one of the things that we can do to make sure that we are communicating that all of the options and the thoughts and the feelings that they have are welcome, and that there is not one right way to do anything, is to give a buffet of options when we're asking spiritual counseling questions. For example, you might say, different people believe in different things. Some people believe in heaven. Some people believe in reincarnation. Some people believe that consciousness continues in another form. Some people believe we live only one life and that's it. What feels most true to you? Now you'll notice the difference here. We're not telling people what to believe. We're helping them discover what resonates for them. So we're leading with curiosity. We're asking a lot of who, what, where, why, and how questions. And we're giving them a buffet of options to communicate to them that any possibility is welcome here. Another suggestion that I have is that you always ask in the intake what the client's spiritual or religious beliefs are, and or ask if they would like to discuss their spirituality or religion in their therapeutic work with you. If you include it in the intake, if you ask if they would like to use spirituality and religion in the sessions, if you ask about whether they would like to explore spirituality and religion as one of their tools in their well-being, then you actually have it in the intake how they've responded. That gives you a heads up and can allow you to say things to them like, hey, I saw in the intake that you said you'd really like to use spirituality in our sessions. Tell me more about that. Tell me about your spiritual beliefs. Tell me about what you had in mind. Now you get to ask more questions because you asked in the intake their preferences. Now, you may have been exposed to therapists or coaches or other helping professionals that have strong values around religion or spirituality, and that they use those in session. So I often get asked, can you have a very specific spiritual perspective that you bring into session? Are you allowed to bring that into session, your own beliefs? And here's the answer to that. It's a really particular answer. There are wonderful therapists and coaches that specialize in many specific approaches. Sometimes those approaches are using a religious or cultural perspective that gets incorporated into sessions. For example, some helping professionals are Christian counselors, or are Christian coaches, or are Orthodox Jewish relationship coaches, or therapists that operate from a Buddhist perspective, or are spiritual mentors from specific traditions. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that as long as this one thing happens. I wonder if you can guess what it is. That thing is transparency. So if you are a Christian therapist, it's essential that you be transparent about that way before that client is sitting in front of you in session. If you are an Orthodox Jewish marriage therapist, it is essential that you be very transparent about that way before the client is sitting in front of you. Here's what I mean. Therapists, coaches, helping professionals can have a strong religious or cultural perspective as long as they are clear about it and upfront, and that it is not a surprise to the client, which would be a violation of ethics and boundaries. So, for example, the Christian counselor, Christian therapist, on their website, it should be very clear that they're a Christian therapist and what that means to them. It might say things like, during our sessions, we will talk about the challenges that you're experiencing, and we will use scripture from the Bible in order to provide guidance in addition to mental health perspectives. At the end of our sessions, we will pray together as a way of helping you to use the tool of prayer to help you overcome your challenges. That should be on their website. That should be on their Psychology Today profile. That should be in your intake forms, being very clear that you're a Christian counselor coming at this from a Christian perspective and using Christian tools to reinforce it. And then once you have that client in front of you and you're actually doing their intake, whether it be virtually or in person, you again reiterate with transparency the style of therapy that you use, the approach that you use, and how you use religion and spirituality in the session. If you do that, you're being transparent and the client is agreeing that this is the type of therapy that they want. It gives them an opportunity to say, oh, I'm not looking for somebody to quote from the Bible. I was looking for somebody to help me explore whether I wanted to become Jewish. Or I was looking for somebody to help me understand Buddhist principles. Or I was looking to have somebody help me understand how to get a divorce but not piss off my Catholic parents, right? So that clarity and that transparency is what keeps this ethical, professional, and in the lane of boundaries. So if clients clearly understand the perspective that's being offered and intentionally choose that approach, then they are saying, this is the type of approach I would like. One of the ways I also help therapists to incorporate spiritual counseling into their sessions is to suggest a couple of things. One, if the client is interested in a type of spirituality or religion and wants that to be a part of their work with you, that you suggest that you guys work a book together. Whether that book is the Bible or whether it's a Return to Love, or whether it's A Course in Miracles, or whether it's something about energy healing, or whether it's something about Buddhism, or whether it's something about Judaism, or whether it's something about being a Muslim, that you work a book with them, because then it's not you telling them the ideas to believe, it's you helping to explore the book and to explore what's meaningful about it to them to see if those values work for them. Another way that we can help incorporate spirituality into sessions is to talk about what I call the 8 spiritual universal tenets. Now, religion and spirituality have a lot of variety, but most of them, whether it's a religious value or a spiritual value, have tenets that are somewhat universal. The way that we interpret them, the nuance of them may be different, but things like oneness or compassion or love are some of those tenets. So I teach therapists how to use those tenets in session for the clients that would like to explore their spirituality in session, so that they say something like, I know you were interested in exploring spirituality. This is one of those moments where we might be able to take a look at the concept of compassion from a spiritual perspective and see how you might apply that to this difficult challenge that you're going through. So we can open up more dialogue by talking about spiritual concepts that the client might be interested in. Now, spirituality really can support healing. Spirituality can also be a very big part of people's thriving. Many people heal emotionally before they heal spiritually. Others heal spiritually before they heal emotionally. But eventually, many people ask deeper questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What gives my life meaning? How do I want to live? Who do I want to be while I'm here? And these questions really matter because healing is not just about reducing symptoms. It's about becoming more aligned with who we really are. And very often it's about bringing deeper meaning to the challenges that we've had, understanding how those challenges may have been a part of our own growth or our spiritual growth, and helps us to be able to cope with the challenges that we have by using spiritual concepts. So whether you identify as religious or spiritual or both or neither, I hope this episode encourages you as a therapist or a coach or as a client or a self-growth seeker to approach spirituality with curiosity rather than certainty. You do not need someone else to tell you what to believe. You have the right to explore, to question, to wonder, to grow, and perhaps most importantly, to discover what feels meaningful and authentic for you. I would like to thank you for your curiosity, for joining with me today. And I encourage you to use the questions that I asked during this episode to just start bringing them into your sessions. To allow yourself to trust that you can ask these questions with curiosity as long as you're incredibly transparent with the client about the reason you're doing so. That the client understands that you do not have an agenda for them, but instead they understand that you just want to help them explore this area if they're interested in that and see if it might provide some healing and some strength and some guidance. Thank you so much for being a part of the Holistic Therapy Revolution. And until next time, may you continue aligning your mind, body, and soul in ways that support your highest good.